You're live. Come on in, everybody. Come on in. We're going to let people trickle in. But if you can, while we're waiting, why don't you put into the chat where you are calling in from? What part of the world are you calling in from? I'm always surprised when we see just so many people from around the world getting to see where they're coming in from. First one, Rochester, New York, my hometown. I love it. Analyst. Nice. I suppose we're the ones that are able to see this. Mm, yes. While we wait, I'm gonna send this information to our team. Yep. Durham, North Carolina, UK. Cool. India. Nice. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, for those who haven't joined us yet, I'm going to actually see if we can do this. List attendees can chat with everyone. Yeah. Why don't you post now where you're calling in from? I changed the settings so that everyone can see really quick. Right. Well, welcome everyone. This is the Open Science Framework 101. This is meant to be a quick onboarding webinar where we walk through all of the different features and tools on the OSF to help everybody kind of get onboarded to our platform. So before we get started, we have our research team, or not a research team, our product team here to help you out with answering questions. We do ask that you do use the Q&A function so that they're able to answer questions in a much more succinct manner, and it's really helpful that way. I'm just going to be talking, and then if we have time at the end, I'll be able to answer some questions live. I appreciate everybody messaging where they're calling in from. It's actually really fascinating getting to see where everybody's calling in from. All right. With that, I'm going to kind of keep moving forward and we'll just get going. All right. So before we get going, one thing I do want to note, these are free webinars that we put on in order to help people get onboarded and using our platform and doing open science in general. But with that, some things that we want to talk about are code of conduct with these particular meetings. We want all messages in our chat and with our team to be respectful. And the important thing is that we are not harassing, we are not any unwelcomed attention, physical contact, anything that falls under the banner of this probably shouldn't apply during a free, nice webinar on open science. But the point is that we do want to create a safe environment for people to explore and learn about open science um, without any problems. So with that, our team will be monitoring the chat and hopefully, as long as you are respectful and kind and here to learn about open science, and that's all that really matters. So we'll keep moving forward here. Quick audience poll. So one thing that I do like to do before we get through here is 1 second. I'm actually going to add a message from our team. I'm going to add the slide deck as part of the presentation. But yes, some of our previous slide decks that are almost identical are actually found in our webinar here. I am actually going to put that into the chat for everyone if you want to just follow along. And these are documents that are able to be downloaded on the OSF, and teach you how to do that as well. But to start, we're going to start out with a quick poll on the OSF. Part of the reason why we do these webinars Um, I can find where the poll is. Part of the reason why we do these webinars is that we're able to actually engage with our community. So how I like to do these webinars is I want to be able to kind of understand how familiar you are with the OSF, so I can kind of shift the material, focusing on different areas versus not. So it takes a couple of seconds to answer these questions. The first one is how familiar are you with the OSF? Not familiar at all, extremely familiar. It just helps me kind of answer those questions. The other ones that I do like to ask is what are some challenges that you've had so far? A lot of people who are coming into these webinars are new users, people who are learning about using our platform, but really haven't you know, had the chance to explore too much, but maybe ran into some problems. We want to know what those problems are. Uh, this webinar is hosted by the product team, and we try and take this information about engaging with people just like you and bringing it back to the rest of the team so we can improve our platform. So please do answer that question of what are some of the challenges that maybe you've faced so far with using the OSF. Okay, I'll let you continue on that way, and I'm going to continue on with our slides. Okay, today's agenda. So one thing that I did is in the chat here, I added basically a link to our files. This will give you a good indication on one, what is the slide decks that we're going to be using and some of the notes that you can use along the way. Now, I haven't uploaded just yet what the April one looks like, and I can do that actually right now. So as I'm doing this, I'm actually uploading a PDF of our slides today directly to the OSF. Hopefully that's able to pop right up and right in front of your eyes, you'll get to see one of the magic of our collaboration tool, OSF projects. So now if you refresh that page, you will see the OSF 101 April webinar, which is the PDF of our actual presentation. The agenda for today, we're going to start off by talking about some open scholarship topics. What is open scholarship? What is open science? We're going to quickly gloss over the accounts and profiles section, so how to create an account, profiles, and then we'll talk a little bit about searching the OSF, so discovering some content on the OSF. Additionally, we're going to then talk about registrations and pre-registrations, which is one of the calling cards of the OSF and our platform. We're going to talk about OSF projects, a study management and collaboration tool, which I just started to demonstrate a little bit as a little teaser for you. And then we're also going to talk about OSF preprints, how you can share your manuscripts directly on the OSF. And the last thing I'm going to talk about is how you can kind of connect some of these tools. How you're going to connect them to each other and then to your research landscape in general. Now, I'm not going to be able to dive into all these things, so some of these things I'm going to gloss over versus not. But on these slides, you'll see down in the corner, watch a full video. I have in the past covered all of these topics in depth. So what you can do is actually click on that video at whenever you want and actually watch an in-depth video on each one of these topics. I'm going to end the poll. Actually, we looks like we're still getting a couple of people answering, so I'll leave that up for a second. Where do we start? What is open scholarship? Well, I'm not going to go through and read all this definition. There's some real main pillars of open scholarship and open science. The idea is that for researchers, we want to highlight transparency in the workflow. From start to finish, what were your steps? How did things go? Where did things go wrong? And where could things be improved? The idea is that everything that you do should be able to be built on. That's kind of the ideals of science, right? The other sections are enabling collaboration and reuse, being able to reuse that data, reuse all of the information and things that you have done, whether it was successful or not, but also being able to break down those walls of collaboration. What are some of the things, the barriers that are getting in the way of you collaborating with one, your colleagues, but people around the world in your field? And the last one is access to knowledge, getting around those paywalls, those things that are getting in the way of you understanding everything that's in the landscape of your research field. Those are kind of the pillars of open scholarship. Now, as you're going through this journey of understanding what open science is, you're probably going to come across a ton of different terms. And these are just some of them that kind of come up. Um, these are even some of the open scholarship practices. Uh, Now, the important thing that we want to make note of here is before we get into the OSF, one of the jobs of us on the product team are to take these concepts, these open science ideas, and try and create a very applied platform. Make these high level pie in the sky thinking ideas about open scholarship and try and give you a applicable research tool to help you meet those goals. So whether you fall in line with the same ethical beliefs of some of these tools, you can actually use our free online platform, the OSF, in order to help reach those goals. I'm actually going to end the poll here because it looks like we're done with our responses. Close that. I'm going to review those later. So some challenges that open scholarship is currently facing, especially if you're in the United States, this is an underrated slide and probably not covering everything that we would like, but incentives and structure, culture, um, disciplinary differences. Whether you're in psychology or you're in a different, more applied sciences, they all have their own unique take on open science. But again, there is quite a bit of those overlapping points. So it is important to kind of understand different ways of thinking about the open scholarship process, but also how do your group, your community match with these open science ideas? Because that'll change kind of how you use this platform. So how do you get started? I'm going to be talking about a ton of things today. I'm also going to be talking way too fast at you about some of these different tools. This will be recorded, this will be sent to you, but I do preach that you start small. Thinking about how you can take one or two of these practices, these tools, and apply them to your workflow. Don't think about everything at once because you might feel overwhelmed. I also encourage you to ask questions. As I said, we have our team here who are happy to answer questions in the Q&A function, but we'll also try and talk a little bit at the end. Try and figure out what's expected of you from either your publishers, popular journals, funders, because all of those things matter when it comes to trying to decide what you're going to be sharing as part of open science. Exploring other open science platforms, we'll talk about that a little bit in a minute, or even joining a community. Now, in that same vein, we are not the only open science friendly tool platform out there. There are a ton of different tools out there that you can effectively share your work, get information, and even connect across these platforms. So I do encourage you to explore and figure out which platform works best for you. Also, finding a community, finding a group of people who are like-minded in these open science practices, making sure that you are finding the support that you need in order to complete your open science journey. So back to our platform. What is the Open Science Framework? Well, the Open Science Framework is a free, and I'm going to say it again, free open source, open science online research platform designed to support researchers by openly and transparently sharing their work across all stages of the research life cycle. So this is not just a platform where you come in and you can just share your data and that's it. You can actually follow each one of these steps of your normal research life cycle from search and discover all the way to publishing and reporting. And we offer tools that can help support you along those way. And the idea is that by doing this, you can actually connect all of your different steps, almost like chapters in a book. That way you can connect them all together so that if someone, say, finds your data, they'll be able to find your preprints, your registrations, your projects, all these different tools that you've used to create your research story that can come together so that somebody can find every chapter along the way. Along the way, you'll sometimes see a little QR code up in the corner. This is a tool that we have that allows you to look at some of the different resources, not only for this page, but for all of the different things that we're doing on the OSF. So feel free to scan that if you are ever interested. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is setting up your account on your profile. A fair amount of you do have an OSF account, but there are some easy ways of going about doing that. I can show you in a second. But again, if you want to dive in detail about creating an account, setting up your account, or even viewing what your profile fully looks like, there are full linked videos that you can watch down here as well. So to create an OSF account, you have really three different options. The traditional option, all the way here at the right, is the most simple format. Your name, contact email, confirm the email, password. Everybody's done those things for all sorts of platforms around the world, but that is a way that you can create your own OSF account. Additionally, you can create one through what are called OSF institutions. Now, these are a single sign-on method through one of our fee-for-service products where institutions at a very high level can uh, basically pay to aggregate all of the work that their researchers at their universities using their sign-ins do on the OSF. Again, the research platform is free for any individual researchers to use, but these are some services that we offer at a very high level. And if you are interested in that, please do message our team. We're happy to talk more about those things with you. Those prices are very, very reasonable because we are a nonprofit and we basically do this just to be able to provide these services to you guys. But as far as signing in, this is a way that if you are an institution member, one of your researchers can actually sign in through their own individual research institution. So for me, my alma mater is Virginia Tech, which is an institution member. If I so chose, I could use my old login information from Virginia Tech to sign into the OSF just by using the single sign-on method. Additionally, you can log in through ORCID. ORCID are actually persistent identifiers, a permanent address for you as a researcher. The idea is that if you do sign in through ORCID, you can actually connect all the things that you do on the OSF to your ORCID profile, which is actually very helpful for applying for grants and really demonstrating all of your work as a researcher. Now, OSF profiles. Now, this is a section that I've kind of glossed over the past couple of months because this is a page that we are actually getting a little bit more of a revamp towards the end of the year. The idea is that on this OSF profile page, you have a link that is yours as a researcher. And I will just go to my particular OSF profile. To do that, I go up here, top right-hand corner, click my profile. And this actually just shows currently just your public projects, your public components, and you can actually connect a lot of your social, employment, education information if you so choose. We're actually expanding this page in the coming year as kind of a revamp. You're going to be able to show anything that's public that you care to show on the OSF, and it'll look a lot more like your traditional profile pages, where you can kind of demonstrate what you want to show as a researcher. If you are interested in kind of providing feedback on what that could look like, do message our team. I'll provide a way of doing that in a second when we get to those slides. Discovering content on the OSF. Now, on the OSF, you can actually search through the platform and look at all the different work that are currently publicly available that researchers have decided to share on the OSF. We are what is called a generalist repository, which means we do not have a particular discipline that we've honed in on. We allow researchers from any discipline to post their work on the OSF. If you want to watch a full video on how to discover your work, that can be you or search the OSF, you can find that down here in this bottom corner. But essentially what you would do is if you go to the OSF, and I'll demonstrate this again, up here in the top bar, you'll see a section that says search. If I click that, this basically brings me to a search page. Now, going back to the slide, you have a couple of different things that you can do. Along this top bar here, you'll see these different tools. These are the different project tools that we're going to be talking about today in this presentation. But essentially, these just create filters. What you can do is you can filter by only projects, registrations, preprints, files, users, anything that you so choose, but that can break down your search parameters as well. As with most search platforms, you can search by keyword. So for this particular one, I searched for anthropology, which was a conference that I had given to, this is the reason why I'm talking about this particular one. But I had searched for anthropology, and it gave me a list of current results. You can also filter by metadata. For those who aren't familiar with that term, metadata is basically the information you put about your work so that people can find your work and identify it without actually going into that project. So an example of metadata is anything that you're seeing on here. So what you would see is title, author, date registered, context, all of that information, description, those things that you would find at this very top level are what's considered metadata. We also offer additional things like your funder. You can connect who's funding your work, what subjects, what licenses are being used for your work. So that's how do you want your work to be shared or used? You get to choose that on the OSF. Additionally, you can refine by date created or even institutions, which again is one of those fee-for-service products where you can actually come in here, go to the OSF, and figure out all of the work that was done within a particular institution. You could just find that using this link here. Now, again, if you want to look through how to do that, you can look at the full search and discovery video down in the bottom corner. Research planning and registrations. A fair amount of you probably are coming here because you have questions about what are registrations and pre-registrations. This phase typically comes in when you are developing an idea, that study design and acquiring materials. That's really the phase in which you're creating a registration. A metaphor that we've been using to describe registrations, and really the reason for using registration is it's this concept of your research story. The way that research is done at this point right now is a lot of focus is put at that end, your final published work. How is that shared? How is that done? Um, but I pose a question to you. If you were to have never heard the story of Romeo and Juliet, you've never heard of it, you never saw the play or learned about it in school, and someone were to tell you that both of the main characters died, do you really know what happened in that story then? Do you just know the end, but you don't really know the twists and the tails that, the bard takes you down? Uh, that's kind of what happens in current research methods. Uh, the only time that a peer reviewer is looking at your work is right at the end when they see the report. They're kind of seeing that final glimpse of what happened, but it puts a lot of faith in the rest of what happened before it. So, say a mistake or something had happened along the way before, while the research was designed or conducted, really the peer reviewer would have no idea. They would have no idea that anything happened along the way. They would just see what that final publication is. And that's part of the idea of what's called harking, which is hypothesizing after results are known. Essentially, in non-ethical types of research, or even in some types of research where you're constantly evolving in what you're doing, uh, what will end up happening is that you can actually change your design so that it kind of fits what those results were. So a peer reviewer really would have no idea what had happened. So the idea with a registration or pre-registration is that instead of that final publication being the end all be all of your work, you're putting more emphasis on the design. Everything is kind of connected back to the design of that work. Um, now, unfortunately, I wasn't able to shift these settings. We will look at the raised hands later on. Unfortunately, I'm probably not going to be able to answer those. So if you do have a question, ask those in the chat. So if everything's based around that design, what is a pre-registration? Well, at the moment of your design, the moment you want to lock in your study plan, that is a time-stamped read-only version of your research plan that is created and submitted to a public registry, just like the OSF, before it's even conducted, before that research study is even conducted. Now, this is your research story. You can actually create multiple designs of that research plan, but the idea is that each one of those things connect back to each other. You can have version 1, version 2, version 3, but each one will show the changes between version 1, version 2, version 3, so that anyone coming to version 3 can see the changes that you had made between version 2 and version 1. All of those things kind of fall in line. It also helps you with the idea of kind of a study management plan. It accompanies your work so that you are kind of thinking through what your study is going to look like. Now, When does a pre-registration happen? What is a pre-registration versus a registration? Now, the main difference between a pre-registration and registration is timing. When are you submitting it? For a pre-registration, typically those pre-registrations occur before you've even conducted your experiment. So before you've started collecting any data, broad strokes, you would submit a pre-registration form saying, this is what my plan is for my study. Here's what the expected results are going to look like. Now you can obviously update along the way, all the way up until you've published your work. But that first registration came in, pre-registration came in before you've even conducted your work. Now, the difference is that a registration, you can actually submit that form all the way up until that final published work. Does that really get around some of these concepts of harking? No, but would we rather you do something, register your idea at all rather than nothing at all? Again, going back to my first thing that I was talking about here, small steps. Sometimes people have experiments that are already on the way or something got in the way, the timing of it didn't work out. Submitting a registration is still valid and really does help out with the credibility. Uh, this is about the time that I get the question about scooping. How do I prevent people from stealing my work? While that is a negative side of the world, we do offer what is called embargoing. The idea is that you are actually able to submit a pre-registration or registration and make it private to you and your collaborators for up to 4 years. You have tools that you can actually send out like view-only links if you do want to collaborate with a trusted colleague. But you have the choice of doing that. It will remain private for up to 4 years and allow you to complete your experiment. And then at the end, when you have published your work, you can go back and say, whoops, you can go back and say, yep, at this moment in time, this was my research plan, and here's what the final results ended up looking like. Now, I'm going to go fairly quickly through how to demo this process on the OSF. I'm actually going to go to our test site because registrations are a little bit more permanent than what an OSF project is. OSF projects are a little bit more flexible, and on a registration, you're actually submitting a specific version of your work, and it's archived. So what I've done here is I'm just going to go to the registry section. I'm going to click Add New, which is up here at the top. This is going to ask me if I want to make a registration based off of an OSF project. In this case, I'm going to say no. This would just take all the information from an OSF project, put it into a registration, and give you a starting place. What type of registration would you like to create? This is another point where I typically get quite a few questions. We do have help guides on templates or selecting registration templates. And if you would like, I'm just going to put this into the chat. And this is a great resource to help you select what templates you can use on the OSF. Some of our more popular are the open-ended registrations, which are essentially just a description and then a file that you're associating with your work, or OSF pre-registrations, which asks a bunch of questions to help you kind of think through what your study is going to look like. In this case, I'm going to click OSF pre-registrations. We are also cultivating community registrations. So we have people who are submitting templates for their community of what they use for a pre-registration or registration. And we're hoping to incorporate those into the OSF. Now, as you can see, there are different questions here along the way for a registration. I have title, description, all those things that are showing up in a search. And all I would do is go through and kind of fill out these things. I'm not going to go through and add too much to this. You can see some of these questions. They each have their own descriptions. If you ever have any questions, I do encourage you to look at this bottom tab here where this beacon is, because it does have some videos and resources to help you along with those questions. And you can also have access to all of our support guides. One thing I do want to highlight here before we move forward is your contributors. The permission levels on these registrations actually do matter. So right now, I'm the only contributor on this made-up registration that we're having. But if I wanted to, I can add a contributor to this registration. And I'm going to add one of the people who are helping us out with this particular webinar, Mark, and I'm going to add him to this registration. Now, I'm going to add him as a read and write contributor, and I am an administrator. The big difference here, especially with registrations, is that the administrator actually has the ability to reject a submitted registration, whereas a read and write contributor will only be notified that there was a submission. Um, Now, the rejection can happen within that first 48 hours, and it is up to me as the administrator to make that decision. Mark, unfortunately, does not have that call as a read and write contributor. If I were to add him as an administrator, we would both have that right to be able to reject it within that 48 hours. An important thing to note is that you, as the researcher, are the primary owners of anything that is posted on the OSF. So especially for registrations, I don't have any rights to reject your work on the OSF, especially for registrations. You are the ones who are making that call. Uh, Whereas that's a little bit different when it comes to our moderated services. We do have some terms and conditions and things that you would be falling in line with. What I would do for this registration, I'm going to go all the way through, get all the way to the end where I talked about my variables, my analysis plan. I'm going to review this final information and I would click register. Now, I don't have time to fill all of this out, but a pop-up would show up and ask me, when would I like to embargo this work? Would I like it to make it public immediately or embargo it and make it private for up to 4 years? I can select what date I would like in order to make that public. What does that actually end up looking like here? Once I click submit, I've decided what date I would like my work to either be embargoed or make public. The admin and the write contributors will both receive emails. Those will look a little bit different. On the left-hand side here, you'll see what my email would have looked like, the approve registration. As you'll see, there is a button here that will say, do you want to approve this registration or cancel this registration? The idea is that I can approve it, make it public right away, or I can cancel it. And then cancel it is basically return it to a draft state where we'll all go back, review it, and then submit it again. The write contributors, their email looks a little bit different. As you can see, they basically just get notified that there was a registration, this one titled random string of numbers and letters, but there was a registration submitted at one time. And they can talk to the contributors, but they don't have that approve or reject link. That's why it's important to decide whether they will be an admin or a read-or-write contributor. So now let's talk about study management tools. OSF projects. Now I kind of gave a little bit of a hint of what that ends up looking like, but OSF projects are super flexible. You can use those throughout almost your entire research lifecycle, whether you're developing idea, study design, acquiring materials, all the way to analyzing your data. This is a flexible space where you and your colleagues from either your institution or any research institution, you can collaborate together on one connected space. Best way I can describe an OSF project is, what if you took all these different storage and research tools that you have and you're able to connect them to one centralized space? You could get a citation and credit for the data that's just sitting in your Google Drive folders or any citation folder. You could always have the latest version of the work so you don't submitting back and forth over email hundreds of times. Is this my final manuscript to my PI? Getting a little bit of flashbacks there. What if you could add, explanatory information so that when you send out a folder to a colleague, you don't have to send a full paragraph explaining this is my organizational system, this is how I have everything laid out. You can actually have that on one space. What if you could get a persistent identifier, a DOI, a digital object identifier that is a link you could put in your research and it won't break, so that 5, 10 years, 20 years down the line, somebody comes to your research paper, they find a link saying, here's the available data, they click on it, they will actually go to the data and not a broken link. That's actually called link rot. That was tougher to say than I wanted it to be. Link rot, which is just kind of a slang term for broken links in research publications that gets in the way of that research transparency that we were talking about. So how can we do this? Well, this actually comes into play with what an OSF project looks like. On an OSF project, you will have what are called components. You will have a wiki section where you can describe everything that's going on in an OSF project. You also have a list of recent activities, things that have been happening on that OSF project. You have a list of contributors, dates when it was last updated. You can categorize that information, and you even have a license to explain how other researchers can use your work. Um, all of these are equipped with citations, and they also provide you with the ability to one, get a DOI if it is a public work, which again is that persistent identifier. I'll talk a little bit more about some of those tools, but first thing I want to do is I want to show you what an example of a research project looks like. So now this is actually in our support center, help.osf.io. And I'm going to go to getting started for research groups. This is a fun help guide where we actually break down what structures of OSF projects are actually useful for research groups. I particularly like this template that we created. This is for, say, a research PI that has a couple of different grants that they've won, research initiatives, if they will. So you have a couple of grad students, people who are working under you, different projects that you're doing. You can create a very high-level project, and each of these OSF projects work on a nested structure. So inside, I have a research initiative one. I can click on this, and this will take me to my first research initiative where I will have components, which are sub-projects, for the data management plan, the literature review, standard operating procedures, everything that would go into an OSF project. Now, if you want to use this as a template, all you would do is, and again, I'm going to send this in the chat here so you don't have to start a project from scratch. You would come here and you would essentially go to this button up here, which are called forking. We're actually going to be changing the title to just making a copy of this particular work or duplicating. And you would click duplicate template. This will take basically the outline and structure of this OSF project, components, everything that's inside of it, and make it your own. And it'll link back to this particular project. The idea is that you can use this as a template, but you're basically just giving credit that this is the template that you are using it from. Now, what does one of these look like that are actually more filled out? Now, I'm going to go to this OSF project here, and this is one that I was playing around with a little bit here today. And this is the OSF project that we created for these webinars, OSF 101. On here, if it will load, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. My internet is a bit slow today, my apologies. This is a project space where we're able to actually create a storage space where you're able to describe and see exactly what's going on in the OSF. Hopefully we're able to do that. My apologies. Yeah, I appreciate that. Now, oh, thank you. Hopefully this is able to pop up. Sarah was able to nicely send me, hit this too soon. Isn't loading for me either. That's okay. So what we're going to do is while this loads, potentially there's something else going on. I'm just going to talk a little bit more. Might be a little throttled right now. It's very possible. So what I'm going to be doing, and I was reading a chat from Sarah, I apologize. I'm just going to kind of roll through this version here. The idea is that you can kind of create your own structures and connect all of these things back together. Now, one of the things that you can do on these projects is that you can actually create what's called add-ons. So add-ons are outside tools and providers. Now, I'm not going to be able to do very much with this, but I'm going to try and zoom in here as we make the most of this situation. Now over here, you'll see that there are a couple of different tools that we've kind of outlined. We have some storage tools called Box. You have some other tools like Figshare, Zenodo, Mendeley are both citation libraries. The idea being that we don't want to replace anything that is you currently use as your tools. We want to connect to them. The idea being that if you can actually connect these tools to your OSF project, it allows for better connectivity. We're breaking down those walls for research transparency. Now, all you need to do on an OSF project, and I'm going to connect here, is up here at the top bar. There would be a section called add-ons. What you would do is you'd be able to click on that and hopefully, yes, we're able to load it up. This is a research group initiative one. This was able to this is what we were working on anyways. But I can actually connect what are called add-ons. So up here on the top bar, you see a section called add-ons. By doing this, I'm actually able to connect some of my tools. So if I have a folder or repository on GitHub or a folder on Google Drive, I can actually connect that directly to one of these OSF projects. So to do that, I'm going to kind of play around here and I click Connect Google Drive. I'm going to go to Google Drive. It's going to give me a little bit of information on this. I'm going to click Connect Term. I'm going to choose an existing account or create a new account. I'm going to authorize that this is my Google Drive account. Click confirm. Select what platform I would like it to be. I'm going to go to my drive and I'm actually going to go to my just general test. This is just a demo folder that I have set up. I'm going to click save. And all that did was as I go back to the add-on overview, tool overview. Anyways, what it would do is it actually creates a version of it right on the OSF. I'm able to see those folders and the files that are inside of it directly onto the OSF. And that's really helpful, especially if you have different teams that have different platforms, or you're working with a group from a different institution that uses a different primary storage platform. So say they use Box, but you use Google Drive. How do those things talk together? You're able to connect those using the OSF. I'm actually going to move forward and hopefully we're able to kind of render some of this information later. But moving forward, if you do want to watch a full demoed version of that where, you know, our platform is cooperating a little bit more, you can actually look at that here down the bottom right-hand corner. There's a full video of that. One thing that I do want to note is that we are a grassroots movement. So taking a little bit of a pause, talking about the OSF projects and the OSF and open science itself, we are a grassroots movement, which means we basically work by really word of mouth. You connecting with your colleagues, connecting with your community about one, the OSF and this free research tool that we provide. These are all really important things. So down here, you'll see a link for some of our, this is basically the link and advertisement to our OSF 101 webinars. Some of you may have seen those. I encourage you to go out and click on one of these links and reshare it on your platforms. If you found this useful, this webinar useful at all, please go through and share this work. And just because it does help us get the word out about how to use our platform. So that's something I want to kind of take a little quick pause and share out. The other thing that I do want to make note of is we are trying to take feedback from researchers. You saw it a little bit on our questionnaire when you all first started coming in here, but we are actually starting a research group, a beta tester group, to help us with improving the OSF. So we have a big front end development that's coming out onto the OSF where we're actually revamping the front of what our OSF looks like, trying to make it more intuitive for users. If you're interested in doing any beta testing or getting involved in improving this free platform for improving research transparency and openness for people around the world, please do fill out that form. I will be in contact with you and you'll probably be having either one-on-one meetings with me or surveys or something like that. This is a very low lift community ask. There's no obligations. It's just an opportunity to get involved to help. All right, I'm going to get back into the presentation here. Yep. I have one couple more things to talk about. Research sharing using OSF preprints. Preprints are actually pre-publications on the OSF. What they are is you're able to actually share your manuscript prior to a peer-reviewed journal. The idea being that you can actually share your manuscript, whether it's accepted or not, at a different, peer-reviewed place, and share it out quickly with your community. There's very little barriers between you and sharing with your research community. Speaking of research communities, we actually partner with a ton of different preprint providers. These are groups that host basically their own community of researchers, where they have a specific niche, a discipline that you can submit to. So if you're interested in submitting to, say, nutrition or uh, geology for Earth archives, you can actually submit to one of these particular disciplines and really get your work in front of a research community that is hungry to look at your work. Now, what does that look like for submitting a preprint? What I did was on that home OSF dashboard, I went up here to the top right-hand corner, clicked preprints, and I went to add, I'm going to go up here to add a preprint along that top bar. Now, in this, I'm able to go through and select which preprint provider I would like to share with. There's really two different kinds of moderated preprint service. There's what's called pre-moderation, which means prior to you, when you submit your manuscript, essentially what will happen is it will be private. The moderators from these services will go through, they will review your work and say, yes, this is allowed on our site. No, you probably should revise or resubmit. Those are the choices. You also have what are called post-moderated services. Essentially, what would happen is once you clicked submit, your work immediately becomes public on their group. But then they have the option of going back and moderating it at a later time and either removing it and asking you to resubmit or leaving it up. So for that submission process, I basically clicked on the OSF. I'm able to, similarly to the OSF registrations page, you'll see this is kind of a similar layout. I'm going to go through, I'm going to add title, abstract, anything that I need in order to submit my manuscript. I'm going to go through, add metadata, author assertions about their work, even connect it to OSF projects or supplementary material. I'm going to have the option of reviewing, and then I'm going to click submit. Now, I'm running a little short on time, so I'm not going to be able to do this completely, but we do have a video demonstrating that process. So do check that out if you need to. Connecting relationships. Some of the things that I've been trying to point out along the way, and you may or may not have caught these things, is that everything that's public on the OSF has the ability to have what are called digital object identifiers, DOIs. So if I go to, say, a research project here, and hopefully I'm able to do this, I'm able to create what are called DOIs, digital object identifiers. I'm going to click create this one, and you're actually going to get to me to see this process. I'm going to click create, and this is going to give me a persistent identifier that I can link to other things. The beautiful thing about this is that whether you are in a public OSF preprint, a public project, or a public registration, you can actually connect all of those things back together. I appreciate, so the ability to connect all of those things back together is really important. The idea being that if you are able to take that persistent identifier, you can connect it to your registration, your preprint, your publication, so that if someone finds just one of those things, they're able to connect them all back together. So first off, what is a persistent identifier? So these are externally maintained links that will remain valid and they won't be broken. So if you're thinking about this like a metaphor, like a net to catch your potential viewers, your researchers, these links won't be broken. They're not going to slip through based on a broken link. Additionally, if you are going through and connecting your ORCID ID, so that persistent identifier as a researcher, you can connect all of those DOIs back to your work as a researcher. And the beauty of that is, again, if someone were to find just one data set, they would be able to connect that data set to your projects, to your preprints, to your publications, to any of the outputs that came from your project, all the way back to you as a researcher, so that none of your work is wasted. everything has that value, taking it back to, that middle school idea of science that every step of your research life cycle matters because if someone's going to be building off your work, they need to know everything that you did. So connecting your full research story, again, you're able to connect all these personal identifiers and digital object identifiers, one to each other, but then two to your ORCID account. So by connecting these PIDs, you are able to create those linkages. So it'll be much easier for people to find your work. Um, I do have a video here. Again, if you do want to see that full relationship video of how to do that on the OSF, we are running a little short in time. I apologize, but you are able to kind of view that as well. All right, quick audience poll before we are almost ready to close up for the day. I'm going to send this out. Again, part of the reason why we do these webinars is that we want feedback. We want feedback. We want to work with you as researchers to understand your perspective. So one, we want to understand, would you recommend this webinar? It allows us to give data for being able to provide this webinar for free, but also, areas for improvement. Also take a few minutes to answer how we can improve this one-on-one webinar, other than some of our demo troubles that we ran into today. Is there anything else that we can do? Any information that you're looking for? Um, Additionally, we also want to know how we can improve the OSF. We want to fit your needs as researchers, as librarians, as whatever persona you have. We want to learn more about those things. So I'm going to leave this poll up right up until the last possible second because we want to hear your voice. So take your time, answer those questions. Uh, we covered a lot of ground today. We talked about a lot of different things. I talked about a whole video library of resources that you were able to connect with. We have a large support center of over 300 help guides that we're trying to streamline a little bit, but you have a ton of resources you can use. We put out monthly tips and tricks to anybody who has created an account on the OSF for new and innovative ways of using the OSF. You can also contact our support desk at any time. We are happy to answer your questions about how you are using the OSF and even problems that you're running into. Obviously, we put on these webinars, but we also have different deep dive webinars where we dive into some of the different things that, are potentially areas of interest. So we did a deep dive webinar on registrations, and we actually did a webinar on registration templates just a couple of weeks ago. Additionally, if you want to discuss some organizational partnerships or different ways that your groups can get involved with the OSF, we're happy to talk to you about that. If you want to connect with me, there's my little QR code, and you can connect with me on LinkedIn or send me an email. The other thing that I want to point out, and I did this very quickly during the talk, is that at the bottom of every single page on the OSF, you'll see what's called a little help beacon. This actually is a customized beacon that, regardless of where you are on the OSF, they will actually have the top 5 help guides to help you on that particular section. So the top 5 help guides for this preprint page look different than the top 5 help guides for the registration page. And that's important because it gives you the information that you need in that moment. You can also search it through our entire help guides along the way. If you do have any questions, please do let us know. I think this is a great time to start looking and seeing if anybody has any questions because we have 6 minutes left at this point. And I'm happy to talk about whatever we would like to talk about for that time. Okay. And check out the chat quick. See if there are any questions, anything that are outstanding. You talked about joining the community. What are some of the benefits of joining the community? I really appreciate that. The community that we are talking about, at least for what we are building right now, that tech advocacy group, is basically just your chance to see what's coming up on the OSF. It's your ability to give insight into what's happening. Our goal, especially with that, is to try and make sure that we're getting feedback from you. Uh, but essentially what it does is it leaves the open door. We are always looking for feedback, one on our platform, but we have a ton of different research initiatives. We are part of a nonprofit called the Center for Open Science, where they do research into different levels of um, how effective are some of these reproducibility concepts. They have different research initiatives for kind of rethinking the research landscape and structure and how could that work. All those things need people. They need feedback. And as you join these groups and you kind of fill out that form to get involved, it just gives you the opportunity to get more involved as we start to have more and more opportunities to get involved, if that answers your question. If you do have questions from your particular discipline community, I do have a ton of colleagues, friends, people who have helped us out in the past as far as research communities. So if you do have questions, we may be able to point you to enthusiastic people in your field to help you out as well. All right, let's look here and see Q&A. It does look like we have a couple of people who have answered questions. Next, uh, once you've posted something useful as a preprint, is it likely or unlikely it will get approved to write articles, journals, etc., or speak at conferences? That depends. That depends. I personally like the idea of making sure that you are advocating for yourself. So you are able to share your work, and there is a chance that it will be discovered, especially if you are sharing it with a research community or a group where you know it will get eyes to the right people. Um, Answering one of these Q&A questions. The question was, if you posted a preprint, is it likely or unlikely that it'll get approached to write articles, journals, speak at conferences? Really, the beauty of this is that you were able to get a citation, a DOI, and proof that you've put out your work. That's the beauty of preprints is that you're getting it out quicker than a peer-reviewed journal. But yes, those things do get approached for peer-reviewed journals. You can actually connect those peer-reviewed publications to your original preprint using those DOIs and those connections that we were talking about. Um, but I do encourage you to also spread the word about your work. Once you've created an OSF preprint, you are actually able to take that work and spread it in, say, LinkedIn or some other public way of sharing your work, connecting it, sharing it with colleagues, professors, people who can get your work out there. But this is an official way of doing it rather than just sending them a link to a manuscript in a Google Drive folder. This is a very official way of sending that out, if that helps. Hopefully that answers your question. Yes, the recording for this particular meeting will be available. It will be sent out as part of the follow-up for this work. We will make sure that the recordings are sent out as far as part of that. But additionally, if you do have questions or you want a different flavor of how we conducted this OSF 101 webinar. We do have those recordings available on our support site where we have different information. So I can just send this. This is help.osf.io. I'm going to put this into the chat here. And you can actually look at some of the training recordings here where we've broken it down by the different categories, different information, and you'll see either Blaine or myself explaining these different concepts. Okay, I think that might be all for us. If you do have more questions, please do ask. We are happy to respond. You can email our support center and we can email you more directly. But again, if you want to contact me directly and ask those questions as well, you're welcome to do that too. Okay. I appreciate the thankful responses. I appreciate everyone for coming here, spending time out of your day to listen to us talk about open science. If you do have questions, do let us know. We'll be here. Okay. Let everybody close out and pull. Bye-bye.